October was a crazy month, which is why I'm glad that now that it's November, I finally got a chance to go see The Lighthouse. And it did not disappoint. Hey everybody, Ryan Reed here. Welcome to another episode of Impromptu Reviews. Yeah, so I just got back, like literally 15 minutes ago, from seeing The Lighthouse. And I am so happy with this movie. For those of you who don't know, this is a new film by Robert Eggers, and he was the same director who did The Witch. And The Witch was a film that I was kind of... I had mixed feelings on. I understood why everyone loved The Witch so much. I did appreciate the attention to detail in that movie. I appreciated that it was a film that allowed itself to breathe. I appreciated the cinematography, the look of that movie. But to me, it didn't work as much as I wanted it to. Honestly, the pacing took away from it. Everyone kept telling me how great it was, and I do fully understand why people love that movie. You know, there's a difference between a slow build and a slow burn, and a movie that just kind of takes too long. And that's kind of how I felt with The Witch. I just didn't feel like it was... The way a lot of people were talking about it was that it was a really intense indie-style horror film. And it is, but not in the way that everyone was building it up. So going in, I had really high expectations, saw the film, didn't think it was bad, understood where everybody loved the movie, why everybody loved the movie. But for me, it just didn't work completely, and so it's not a film I really revisit. This, however, The Lighthouse, is a film that I'm going to revisit probably many times. For those of you who don't know, honestly, the less said about the plot, honestly, the less said about the movie, the better. But for those of you who don't know, this is a film about Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. They are a couple of lighthouse watchmen, and they are stationed at this lighthouse in the middle of the sea. And it's basically just about them being there and the interactions they have with each other, and whether or not, I guess I could say this because the trailer kind of gives it away, whether or not they're kind of going mad. That is all I want to say about the movie. And it is so compelling. It is a great movie. First of all, the way that the film is shot is amazing. If you're a film buff at all, you'll love it for that. The director shot it in a 1:19:1 ratio. And what that means is that back when they started doing, if I remember correctly, back when they started doing movies with sound, originally silent films were shot in a basic 4:3 ratio. I think it was like 1:37 or something like that. Or 1:33 is kind of the standard, but I think they were shot in 1:37. And back then, when they started doing sound in pictures, they needed an extra spot to put sound on the film strip itself. So what they started doing is they started making the image even smaller. And audiences didn't really respond super well to this, but it's a really cool look. It gives it a very compact feel. And the director, Robert Eggers, uses this the best way that he possibly can, in that it feels very claustrophobic. He uses this ratio not just as a gimmick, not just as a throwback to films of that time period. He uses this to tell his story properly. And it definitely has that vibe. It's got that German expressionist vibe, and it works fantastically for this movie. The movie is already shot in very confined spaces, but it feels even more confined when we get these tight shots of the actors or these very symmetrical shots of them at the table. Plus the lighting is amazing. Obviously I don't know how much of it was actually natural lighting or not, but the film feels very natural. There are really dimly lit scenes where it feels like the only source of light is a lantern or is a candle or something like that, and that feels very organic to the movie. And if they did do that, kudos, because it adds so much depth to this picture. There are so many levels of just that black and white imagery, and a lot of the time what you're not seeing is just as effective, if not more, than those brightly lit day shots. The film is haunting. The film just... The closest thing I can compare it to, and even this I feel like is a more straightforward horror movie, my example, is The Shining. So The Shining is very ambiguous. The movie, the Kubrick movie, is very ambiguous because you're never quite sure. Is it really something going on? Is Jack just going crazy? What's happening? And that's how this movie feels. You watch the movie and it is very, very hypnotic. The first 30 minutes or so of the film are very slowly paced, but not like The Witch was. This is, again, we're going back to that kind of hypnotic vibe that Kubrick does in a lot of his movies, which is like, it's very slow, it's very methodical, but it works, it pulls you in, and that's how this film is. We kind of get into the routine with these lighthouse workers before things really start going downhill. And the movie, I would never say it gets super fast-paced. You know, it's not an action movie by any stretch of the imagination. But as things get more and more crazy, that pace picks up, and it works so well. The other thing is there's a lot of kind of classic literary influences here. The one that stands out to me as a fan of his writing is H.P. Lovecraft. And what I mean by that is Lovecraft's stories are often very ambiguous. You're never quite sure what the true horror of the story is. And again, that's kind of how this film plays out. That's all I really want to say, because this really is a film you should go experience. It is not your typical horror movie. So if you're a fan of, you know, classic horror stuff, slasher movies, monster movies, things like that, and you don't like something that's really slowly paced, very ambiguous, and very kind of unclear in the best possible ways, this is not the movie for you. If you like ambiguity in your horror movies, please go see this. The acting is also fantastic. Willem Dafoe, Robert Pattinson, they give... It's basically a two-hander with them, and their interactions are amazing. At one moment, they'll be screaming at each other, and then at another moment, they're laughing with each other, and it feels very... Those shifts feel very organic to this movie and the way it's being told. You know, in other movies that can be very jarring and you'd be confused. Both of these actors not only pull these characters off in amazing ways, they also add to that hypnotic element of the movie. And I know I keep using that phrase, it's hypnotic, but there's really no other way to describe The Lighthouse. It is hypnotic, much like the light in, you know, a lighthouse is. It's very kind of hypnotic to watch, and that's the same kind of vibe this movie gives off. The sound design is brilliant. It's very minimal. It's effective when it needs to be, but it's never going to, you know, hit you over the head with music, you know, crazy music cues or over-the-top sound effects. The sound effects, the music, it's there when it needs to be. The script is also really solid. The language in it is beautiful to listen to in the way that they speak, and it's not as... for me, it's much more up my alley. It's not like The Witch, where The Witch, yeah, that language, that old, you know, English-style way of speaking was really interesting, but there's a barrier there. This doesn't feel like that. There's very much a different sort of sound and sentence structure to the way that these characters talk based on the time period the movie supposedly would take place in. You know, it's never really said, but we get context clues based on the way the film is shot and the way that you know, wardrobe and all that type of stuff. So with that said, there is a difference in dialect, but it works so well, and there's not that initial barrier that The Witch kind of has. Just a beautiful horror movie. That's really what it is. If you want something that's going to make you jump, this isn't it. If you want something that's going to stick with you from the first opening shot to the final image, this is that movie of the year. For me, at least. This is in probably my top 5 movies of the year. I loved it. Again, the less said about it, the better. And if you can go see it in a theater, please. I know it's been out for a few weeks, and it's a very small film. It's an A24 picture, so they come and they go pretty quick in the theaters. If you have a chance, if you like horror movies, go see The Lighthouse. Go enjoy it. Go have a good time with a different style of horror. A throwback horror movie, a beautifully shot horror movie. and one that'll stick with you. Did you see The Lighthouse? Tell me what you think. Tell me, what were your thoughts on the movie? Did you like it as much as I did? Did you not like it? I could see it being very polarizing for people. So leave a comment down below. Tell me what you thought of The Lighthouse. On top of that, if you like our videos, please subscribe to this channel. I have all kinds of different stuff. I have other impromptu reviews on other movies that I've just recently seen, whether in theaters or on video or TV shows. Impromptu reviews is just kind of where I get my thoughts out. On top of that, I have Fright Films, which is my horror movie review show. You can check out a bunch of episodes that I've done of that if you want to see some classic style horror movies. I think I recently just did an episode. The last one I just did was on a old Nickelodeon movie called Crybaby Lane that only aired once. So if that interests you at all, please check it out. Link in the description below. You can also check out the Paranormal Tapes, my true life stories of people's paranormal experiences where I sit down and I interview them. You can also watch some of my food reviews, all kinds of stuff on the channel. So please subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.